Alrighty, so before we start this episode of what kind of oil, um, I'm gonna try something. I haven't done it yet. I've just bought some simple measuring equipment from a big box store, and I thought, maybe this isn't. I'm not measuring accurately. Doing this stuff in small batches leaves a little bit more error, margin of error. I think I'm no scientist, but I'm gonna try and get a little bit more high-tech redneck going forward. One of the other things I also see as an issue running my 50-to-1 tests with this pre-EPA saw is the larger jetted carburetor. This saw was built back in 95, 96, and it's gonna push more fuel. So with that being said, what I'll probably do is we may redo a lot of these tests. I think I'd like to buy a new, either like a 261 or something like that, and start running these tests with these oils and more accurately measuring the fuel and oil ratio. So I bought some lab quality. It's an A designation, so the plus or minus on its accuracy on the gradiated printing lines on these tubes are much more accurate. They're made for measuring, not just, home measuring stuff. So let's take a look at this and let's see if we can get surprised or confirm that I've been mixing. They're pretty accurate. My thing's a little lopsided here. There we go, stay. Still a little lopsided. Oh well. So I've measured out 750 milliliters of gas and what everybody's been asking for, some Red Armor, and then 15 milliliters. I'm doing calculations for 1,000 milliliters of gas. It's 20 milliliters of oil to make an exact 50 to 1. So, quick math in your head, that's 15. So I want to see, I've been using this Anchor Hocking glass, and it's got 15 mil as the first measuring line, and I want to see how accurate that is. And I've still got maybe a milliliter or two left in here. I'm not going to drag this out with the measuring and turn this into a longer video. I understand nobody wants to watch 20 minutes of me yakking and stuff, so let's agree that there's looks like we're gonna have some good film strength with our Red Armor, but I'll be danged. That's pretty accurate. I'm gonna try and get you down as level as possible with that, and let's zoom in just a little bit. So that was actually, if I was measuring exactly 15 milliliters in there, I was shorting it by a little bit, because I got some residual in there. So when I mix this gas, what I'll do is I'll just throw a little bit of oil together, or excuse me, a little bit of gas, just to kind of rinse, dilute, so I make sure that I get all this in there. You can overthink this so hard, because if you just dump that out, how much remains in the bottle unless you sit there and let it drip for 5 minutes? We can overthink this really hard. So the little home mixer is close, but it's going to short you a little bit on this small batch. And then let's see where our 750 milliliters matches in this home measuring cup. So, I'm surprised that the Anchor Hocking is, as close as it is. And let's see where our gas ends up. Just a little short. Looks like we're maybe at about 730, 740. That thing's sloshing around a little bit, but so just a little bit of inaccuracy there. So let's take it over to the saw. I've got the crown of the piston cleaned off for another go of it. Everything's all cleaned up, ready for assembly. nice and clean, no issues. Not going to change the tune on this at all. And we'll see. There's still a couple milliliters in the bottom of that. So we should get some better results with some accurate mixing. All right, let's go off to the wood pile. And, you know, it's first thing in the morning. And we'll let this thing sit all day. And at the end of the day, I'll go ahead and do the teardown video. And we'll see what it looks like on the inside. Thanks for sticking with me. All right, back at the bench. There's the first sneak peek. Let's see how the old red armor did today. Got a few things done. Ported a 2511T. Had to do a repair on a different 2511T that was stock. The intake boot was torn on it. Anyway, it was climbing saw day. Had somebody with a busted gas tank on an old 020. There we go. And I couldn't do anything but do the right thing. Guy's short on work. Anyway, so I gave him the gas tank, did the repair for basically nothing. But it was dripping gasoline out of it, and he was still using it. And I'm like, cuz, you just can't do that. So anyway, that was my good deed for the day. On this one? There we go. So old Josh walked out of here with a 020T that had plenty of love on it. All right, let's see what we look like. This, I did notice, and you saw when I mixed the gas this morning, there's plenty of film strike there. Well, she's a little dry over here. I think that's just a little smudge from me sliding that off. And then we get down in to the crankcase. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit right there and shed some light on. That rod got hot. I'll have to go back and look. I do not remember seeing that discolored. There it is. Get it a little tighter. And so we've got our film strength. There's some over there in the corners, plenty on the piston. And let's see what we got here. Thing looks fine. We did not look at the top of the piston. It feels a little gooey. I'm not even making this up. I'd say that the internet lore is pretty accurate. I would say that's the cleanest piston crown we've had yet on a full tank of gas. So Red Armor does clean. But like I was saying, this oil that's on there, it's tacky. And I did let it idle for, I don't know, maybe about 10 seconds before I shut it off. And again, I'm running a max flow, so nothing's getting past this. I don't know. Tell me what you think. I'm trying to keep these relatively short. But again, I think what we can look at is you know, with a pre-EPA saw, I'd really like to do these all over again with a fresh auto-tune / M-tronic saw, something, you know, more typical of, you know, when you go buy a brand hammer new unit. All these new saws are meant to conform to, you know, OSHA and EPA. And EPA, for the most part, you've got to keep the emissions down, so you're going to have to get thriftier with the fuel. And they do this in a couple of different ways, and whether it's having some type of baffle on the inside to help burn off all the additional, any of the unburnt gas, that'll get hot enough where it'll actually vaporize those fuel, burn off that last little bit that gets purged out in between cycles. So that's all I got. There's Red Armor for you. All right, so while I was editing this video, I started looking at a few things, and looks like I'm starting to lose the plating right there. This has been cleaned up enough in between all these test trials. And this was a used jug that was scored that I cleaned up. You can go back and look at that first video, and it was still in good shape. But I think that's, if you can hear, I don't know. There's a little bit of crackling or whatever, but I can hear a little bit of grit in there. That's where the rod got hot. So we got a failure analysis. And no moss Nicosil right there. All right. So we'll go back to the drawing board. Don't let that skew the results. That's just a byproduct of using an old saw that's been cleaned up. You know, that plating's on there, and it's only a couple of thousands thick from the factory. So there we go. There's your be-all, end-all, and the answer to the discolored rod. Didn't have anything to do with the oil. Just today on this old saw. So it looks like we will be getting a new saw to do some testing with. Ha! I get to buy a new saw. It's a good day.